Hi, Caden. It's Martin and Nick here, and we're going to go and talk about 71 Glenwood. And as ever, the idea is we do a condition assessment. Then we get into demographics, crime, capital growth, comparable valuations for sale and rent, then suggested offer amount. And let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Here we go. And this looks like a relatively modern house. Now, I suspect it's 1970s. Are you able to confirm?
Yeah, 60.
1960. Okay, so yeah, that's good. And therefore, it's going to be well built. You can actually see the damp-proof course actually just here. So that's all good. So the main thing is it's going to be dry. And
yeah,
that's
EPCC.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, that's all very good. So reasonably nice property. Now we've got the 360, so I'm just going to jump through these just to pick out anything of interest, really. And the that's kind of interesting, a stepped garden. The good thing is it's not on the back of a big slope. Now, if there was a hill or something like that running behind it and you had downpours, then obviously you'd have water going straight into the property, and that would be a serious issue. But this isn't a problem here. Anyway, all very tidy, nicely done, reasonable sized bedrooms.
The only one is small.
Yeah, and that's being used as a
it's a small house.
Yes, and let's have a look at this. And we'll also, before we get into all of that, let's just quickly look at the floor plan. Yeah, so that's being used as a dressing room at the moment. And then you've got the main bedroom where I think I saw a desk and so on. So this is all fine. 61, it's quite a tight property in terms of footage, but it's well organized, which is the main thing. And we've got very red lighting because it's whatever, the lights. All right. The thing one of the issues is it's not a particularly high resolution image, so it's difficult to see exactly what's going on here. But that looks to me like either carpet tiles or maybe it is carpeting, but it looks okay. And
anyway, we'll have Uber viewings, and I will go over it. So
yeah, it all looks fine. You know, the carpets are fine. They just need a clean, perhaps. But there's no condition issue that I see here so far. Double glazing all looks fine. Back doors look fine.
Kitchen is good size.
They've shaded them out for privacy. It looks fine. Now let's go from here into the bathroom. See what's going on there. And we've got an electric unit here. So so the hot water would come in as cold water into this thing. There's a little electric heater thing in here, and it pours out hot water. We've got what it looks like original tongue and groove ceilings. Not great. And there was a question about, does it have ventilation in here?
And it's also a question about to put waterproof tiles back in the bathroom size. I don't see any in the virtual tour.
Yeah, so this looks like a waterproof. It looks to me like it's got a waterproof vinyl, so it's kind of tanked out for the wet usage, in other words. And you asked about whether it has ventilation in it, and is it a building regs thing? No, it's not a building regs thing, and I don't think there's an issue here. And you can see here that the way they get around the problem is they just leave that open. And we know that that's all fine, because if we look in the corners here, very often in bathrooms where there isn't adequate ventilation, you get mold building up in the corners of the windows and stuff. But this is all just fine from what I can see. All right, let's get into the bedroom, and that looks very tidy. So they've converted this bedroom into a study, so it's obviously just a couple living here, or even a single person. double glazing looks fine. There's no misting or anything in between, so that's all good. And then let's have a look at the next bedroom. So this was, yeah, and it's being used as a dressing room. One point to make about these windows, by the way, we'll find another place where maybe bedroom 3. Let's see what we can see here. I know we've already looked at that. Number 2, perhaps. And yeah, so this is the double bedroom. Now, these modern windows will always have. Now, interestingly, that's different from the rest of the glazing. If you notice, that's a brown modern glazing, but I think it'll be fine. It looks like double glazing. The
APC said that it's double glazing is already C, so yeah.
Yeah. So the main point about this is that these latches, as with the single bathroom here, they're designed so that they partially open. So in fact, you can just have a kind of cracked open vent, and it's secure because the latch secures. So it's a point to make about these double glazing things. So I'm not concerned about that. Let's have a look at the kitchen. Now, above the unit, we've got the air extractor, obviously, so that's fine. Nice kitchen in good condition. And again, as I've said earlier, with this double glazing, you can open this up, just have a very, very small vent going out, and you're all good. Was that the only question Caden asked? So ventilation, do you need an air extractor in the bathroom? And what was the other question?
Checking. Yes, waterproof waterproof tiles in the bathroom.
Yeah, so it's using
the
bathroom's using
and the ventilation for kitchen and the toilet.
Yeah, so the kitchen has ventilation because it's got the air extractor for cooking, and you can also partially open the windows if you choose to. And in this room, I don't see an electric air extraction unit. Usually they exist up here, but you might find that in fact it's a combination air extractor and lamp. It could be that. It's unlikely, and therefore they've just left the windows open, which is fine. Anyway, it's a minor issue. So let's move on. And let's look at the demographics and so on. So this property, as we see, it's quite far northeast, and it's in a very quiet area. Good demographics. So demographics don't change very much from one decade to another. And this would be basically a middle class or upper middle class area, like a good solid family area, kind of older area as well. So the average age would have increased here. It's probably more like 45, 48 now. So it's just a kind of older, middle-aged family area, pretty quiet. So the crime data is a little bit old, but that's because Manchester don't share this data anymore. So I've got 6 months of crime data here, which gives us a good indication as to what's going on. And the answer is not a lot. So if you have, say, 6 crimes per a crime per month, then it's pretty average, really, for an urban area. And we can see here that it's very quiet. Nice to see it's near a canal, very pleasant, and you can see there's access to the canal to enjoy the benefits of that. And it is a bit close to this railway, and there would be sound coming off it, but Martin, we'll just have a look at the exact location in a minute when we go through that. Okay, so that's all good. Now let's just talk about the capital growth. And in summary, it's exceptional. So I'm going to look at it in a couple of different ways. We'll start with the very localized growth, and this is government data, and it's based on something called an MSOA, which is about 5,000 people, and it's quite good. It's reliable and it's quite granular, which I like. And the upshot is that on the way up in the last property cycle. So if you remember, markets grow in cycles, and they do this, and this is market cycles over the last 150 years, and now we're on cycle number 9. So I'm not suggesting it's repetitive. I'm just saying you can draw your own conclusions on that one. But I'm confident about the markets being very cyclical. And we can see here that we're in the last phase, the boom phase. And so what interests me a lot about different areas is how the markets behaved in the last upcycle, in the last market cycle, 2003 to 2008. And the answer is it was very strong around here. And this is probably because a lot of social housing was sold off last time around. And this time round, we've seen 21% growth over the last 3 years, which is exceptionally high. Now, this is above inflation. It's very important to remember that. A lot of people, they don't factor in inflation, and therefore it's difficult to judge anything really. And if you just factor that in, then as an investor, we know whether owning a property in this area will actually help you gain wealth or potentially lose wealth based on overall trends and characteristics over the last number of years. So upshot is this is very strong. Now, I've got the postcode district data for this, so it's a broader spread, but it gives you an idea of roughly how it's been going. And as I said, this was very strong on the way up, and on the way down, it actually did quite well as well, relatively speaking. Some areas were hit much harder than this, like 30% drop, etc. But nationally, we'll have a look at the national averages in a minute. In short, I think it's got another 15% left in it, real growth. So if you factor in inflation, we would say if we assume average 5% inflation per year over the next 4 years, that's 20% plus this. So we're up to 35% growth, nominal growth on the property. And what does that look like? Well, in terms of averages and how it's all looking overall, this is one of the strongest growing areas in the country. So there are only 9% of areas that are stronger than this on growth. And in the way up, it was also one of the strongest. It was just overall, it's robust. So the next question is, what about sales and rental demand? And on sales, the average property, I reckon, will sell in about 2.5 months, which is brisk. And the average property will rent out in under a month. So if it's desirable, it'll rent out in like 2 weeks. So it's very strong. And Martin, could you just message Jamie and just say we're just finishing an assessment and we'll be there in a minute, in about 5 minutes. So anyway, it's an incredibly strong area. And with all of that in mind, let's just go to you, Martin.
I was messaging Jamie, so yeah. I will share my screen.
Thanks.
And so the location is really close to the train station. It's like 10 minutes walking. Google Maps said from this patch that it needs 13 minutes, but basically we have shorter way to arrive. Yeah, so it's 10 minutes walking. Yeah, it's not far away from the Middleton city center. So yeah, and here is the location, exact location of the property, and it's far away from the train because you have like woods, you have 2 houses, like 2 rows of houses, and after is this. Parking is not the issue. You have a parking on the street.
I think it will get a bit of railway noise.
Yeah, but not much.
Yeah, and the reason I think that is because if we look at where the station is, can you just show the station? So the trees aren't going to really hold the noise back, but if you look at the distance to the station from there, so can you just just scroll over to the station? No, just so we can see the actual visual distance from the station. There's a reason for this.
110.
Yeah, that's good. But how far is it from the station?
From this station?
Yeah. Where's the station? Okay, so what's going to happen? Can you just do a distance measurement?
500 meters or something.
Yeah.
550.
So the reality is that when trains come into that station, they've got to slow down, and therefore the trains will be relatively slow here. It's not a high speed connection, I don't think. So
No.
it'll be fairly quiet.
Yeah. I don't see any issues with that, so that's why I recommend this.
I think it's a point of note, but I don't think it's an issue either.
The build is between 150, 166 and 61 meters square. It's small.
What's the sales history of this property? How many times has it been sold over the years?
The last sold is 2019.
Okay.
Just a second. Uh, 2014, 2009, 2007.
And what about comparable properties nearby?
Yeah, comparable properties. You have a lot of terrace house 150.
Okay, so let's just have a look at those. I'm just curious to see how many of those have been sold and how often.
I can say similar condition.
Yeah, but what I'm interested in is the number of sales in the area.
This is only
like, are they excessive or?
Yes, you have in last 2 years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 terrace house. But this is only terrace house. If you go full house, you have 10 on one page. You have 41 sales. So,
but if you look at comparable houses, what's we're trying to work out the number of whether people why are they selling? That's the question.
I don't know.
But you see my point that could it be the railway noise? We don't know.
No,
we need to ask the question anyway and see what they have to say. But
yeah, but there is not. I don't.
It's not that close to the railway, so it's not that much of an issue.
I don't see the issue with the railway.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. I think it's not a problem.
This is the exact location.
It's just always worth being cautious with these things and double checking.
Yeah, we will check. I will call the agent and see. And I think it will 725, 3-bedroom, same type of property is. I will just for rent. The asking price was basic. Column we use property plus right map plus. So in 2020, same type of property 750. But they want well, if it runs for 725.
That's higher today. So
no, it's not.
Is rent not going?
Yeah, the rent is going up, so it even will rent more. This is
exactly.
You can see 850, 750, 700, 700, this 750, 750, 750. So the properties will rent fast, and the rent will be around 750. But let's say 725.
Yeah, that's conservative, I think.
The asking price, just to be sure, is 150.
I think it'll go higher than that, though.
Yeah, let's say 160. If it will give 5.4.
Yeah, that all works.
But basically, you don't have any kind of work to do with this property. Just rent it out.
Yeah, it's very clean.
Yeah.
And also, just to add to this, sorry, I keep dwelling upon this. Can you go back to the Google map, please? Just to add to this, that the back garden is behind the house, so there's no noise disturbance at the rear. So I think, yeah, it all works.
It's if the property was this house or this house, yes, it's avoid from the. But plus you have slope, so the noise will not be that much. I don't think so.
Very good.
But we will see the report of video. So
let's conclude.
I think 165 maybe will buy the property, maybe.
Okay, so 165, and so So it's, you reckon it's worth offering 165 on that?
No, 150. Sorry, 155. But I will not. I will go maximum 160.
Okay,
Too, just
and
because
what?
of the yield.
And it gives us about 5.3 yield, presumably at the suggested purchasing price. So 160.
160. 8. It will run for 7 to 5, and it will give 5.4 yield for 160. For 155. 155. It will give 5.6 yield. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very good. All right, and it needs minimum work as well, which is good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that's helpful. So thank you very much.